The sky lit up over the edge of the new Orlon Desert just after midnight. At first, it looked like a shooting star, a streak of blue-white fire carving through the clouds. But then it kept growing, brighter, louder. The ground trembled. Animals fled. Within seconds, a thunderous explosion rolled across the sand, shaking loose dust from the canyon walls. Cade saw it all from his perch on a collapsed radio tower. He was a scavenger, 23 years old, sharp-eyed, and always listening for things the rest of the city didn't notice. Most nights, he was just looking for old tech to salvage and sell. But tonight felt different. The impact hadn't been a satellite crash. Whatever it was, it came in fast and left a crater the size of Starship. He revved up his hoverbike and headed toward the smoke rising on the horizon. The crater was still steaming when Cade arrived. It was deep, maybe 30 feet, and the sand around it had been scorched in a black glass. At the center, surrounded by jagged pieces of what looked like grown metal or organic machinery, was a figure. A girl. She lay curled among the wreckage, one hand stretched toward the sky. Her skin was pale with a strange shimmer, almost translucent, like moonlight. Her hair was white and floating slightly, as if it didn't quite obey gravity. Her body, though small, radiated energy like a humming force barely contained in a physical shell. Cade slid down the edge of the crater, kicking up ash. He moved cautiously, unsure if she was alive or even human. As he approached, her eyes snapped open. They were violet. No pupils, no whites, just glowing, endless color. He froze. "Hey," he said quietly. "You okay?" The girl blinked. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft but firm. "Where am I?" "You landed about 15 clicks outside New Orlon," Cade said. "This is Earth. Sector 12. Who are you?" She sat up slowly. Her movements were graceful but unfamiliar, like she was learning to be in a body for the first time. "Azura," she said. "Designation, V-Class Harmonic. I was not supposed to arrive like this." Cade raised an eyebrow. "Alien then?" Azura looked around the crater, expression distant. "My ship lost coherence during Rift translation. I didn't land. I fell." Rift translation. That didn't sound like anything Earth tech could do. Cade had heard rumors of interdimensional travel, but nothing confirmed. Still, she didn't look like a lie. Azura tried to stand and winced, pressing her hand to her side. Faint blue lines glowed across her skin, like circuitry woven into muscle. Cade reached out on instinct. "Here," he said. "I've got a hideout. Not far. You need to get off the radar before someone else finds you." She hesitated only a second, then nodded. Cade's hideout was hidden inside an abandoned observatory buried beneath the sand. It was mostly old gear and solar batteries, but he'd upgraded the place with scavenged tech over the years, enough to stay off-grid and unnoticed. Azura stepped inside and paused, running her fingers across the edge of the main console. Her touch activated it instantly. Lights flickered. A soft pulse echoed through the air. "This place remembers," she murmured. Cade handed her a water bottle. "You drink." She looked at it, puzzled, then took a small sip. Strange taste. Not unpleasant. He sat down across from her. "You said you weren't supposed to arrive like this. What were you running from?" Azura looked at him, her expression distant. "Not running. Escaping. We're trying to. Something followed me." "What kind of something?" "It's called the Null," she said quietly. "It consumes signal, thought, existence. My people, we call it the Unvoice." Cade's blood went cold. "So, like a weapon? A force. It doesn't want. It only erases." He leaned back in his chair, trying to process it. "You brought it here." "I didn't mean to." "Still did." "I know." Silence hung between them for a moment, filled only by the soft hum of the observatory. Azura stood and walked to the open hatch, gazing out at the stars. "The Null tracks frequency," she said. "The crash may have alerted it. It's only a matter of time before it finds this world. And what happens then?" She looked over her shoulder at him. "Then everything ends." The desert was still at dawn. Cade stood outside the observatory, shielding his eyes from the rising sun. In the distance, the crater where Azura had fallen was now barely visible, just a patch of scorched earth among endless sand. But the silence hadn't faded. It was still there, thick and unnatural. Azura stood a few feet away, eyes closed, barefoot on the cracked ground. Her body swayed gently, as if listening to something far off. Then she opened her eyes. It's begun. Kate's stomach tightened. The Null. She nodded once. I can feel it. It's distant but coming closer. It's drawn to disruption. The crash was loud. Too loud. Can we stop it? I don't know, Azura said. But we can delay it. There's a relay tower in the Badlands. If the Null reaches it, it'll sever every comm net in this sector. We'll be blind. Isolated. Kate didn't need convincing. He grabbed his gear and tossed Azura a jacket. Then we get there first. They rode a scavenger skiff across the sand. A flat, fast hovercraft Cade had retooled for speed more than comfort. Azura sat beside him, quiet, watching the dunes pass in a blur. She didn't seem afraid, just focused. Cade glanced her way. You said you're harmonic. What does that mean? My people are built of frequency, she said. We exist between sound and thought. We don't build with metal. We build with resonance. My body is only a projection, a vessel tuned to this dimension. So, you're a living instrument? She smiled faintly. Something like that. They passed into the Badlands by midday. Jagged rock formations rose like rusted teeth. The air grew hotter. The sky shimmered unnaturally. Azura's voice dropped. It's near. The relay station loomed ahead, an old structure from before the collapse, built into a tall spire of black stone. As they approached, Cade noticed the wind had stopped. Not slowed, stopped entirely. No sound, no movement, like the world was holding its breath. Azura stepped off the skiff, her eyes wide and alert. It's here, she whispered. Cade followed, his pulse quickening. What do we do? I need to tune the tower to a counter-frequency. If I can push back the Null's presence, I can delay its advance. But I'll need time. You need to keep watch. Watch for what? He asked. Then he saw it. The Null wasn't a creature. It wasn't even a shape. It was absence, a distortion in the air, like heat waves without heat, a hollow space where light bent and vanished. It bled across the rocks, erasing color, flattening sound. Where it touched, things ceased to be. Kate staggered back. That's it. Azura didn't answer. She was already moving, placing her hands on the old tower's interface. Her body lit with soft violet glow, and the metal beneath her fingers pulsed. The Null moved closer. Cade pulled a plasma cutter from his pack. It wouldn't do much, but it made him feel less helpless. He stood between the relay and the advancing void, watching the ground crumble and vanish as the Null approached. Azura sang, not with words, with tone. Her voice wove through the air in waves, growing louder, more layered. The tower responded, humming in harmony. Cade felt the sound in his bones. The Null recoiled slightly, but didn't stop. Azura winced. It's stronger here. I need more power. Cade turned and ran for the base of the tower. Inside, old systems flickered dimly. He yanked open a control panel and rerouted the power through emergency lines. Sparks flew. The lights brightened. Outside, Azura's glow intensified. The frequency of her voice sharpened. The Null hesitated. Then it surged forward. Cade saw the edge of its form start to overtake the platform. He ran to Azura. We have to move. Almost there, she said, her voice straining. Keep it back. Cade grabbed a flare from his belt, ignited it, and hurled it into the path of the Null. The light vanished instantly, but the motion distracted it just long enough. Azura reached a final note, a piercing, clear sound that cut through the stillness like sunlight through fog. The Null stopped, and then, slowly, it withdrew, fading like a shadow at dawn, leaving a wide ring of dead silence where it had been. Azura collapsed to her knees. Cade caught her. Hey, you okay? She nodded weakly. We delayed it. That's all. It will come again. He helped her to her feet. Then we'll be ready next time. She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. This world isn't like mine. It's loud. It feels alive. The Null won't stop until that's gone. Cade met her eyes. Then we don't stop either. New Orlon was restless. After the encounter at the relay tower, Cade and Azura returned to the city under cover of night. They kept to the lower levels, the forgotten alleys beneath the surface where no one asked questions and drones didn't scan too closely. Above, the skyline glowed in fractured neon and flickering billboards. But even the lights felt uneasy. Something had shifted. The Null's presence hadn't gone unnoticed. Cade led Azura to the only safe place he trusted inside city limits, a hidden tech lab beneath the old transit hub, owned by a hacker named Juno. Juno met them at the door, arms crossed, expression unreadable. You weren't kidding, Cade. Satellites, comm towers, something's eating signals like candy. Then her eyes landed on Azura. I assume this is the alien you didn't describe over comms? Azura stepped forward, calm and composed. My name is Azura. I am Harmonic. Juno raised an eyebrow. You speak like an old-world AI. I'm older than this world's networks, Azura replied. But I am not artificial. Juno blinked, then gave Cade a sideways look. You sure know how to pick your company. Inside the lab, blue screens lit the room with a soft glow. Azura moved through the space with quiet focus, touching devices lightly, tuning into their frequency. Machines that hadn't worked in years hummed back to life in her presence. She's doing that without wires, Juno muttered, watching. That's not possible. She's not from here, Cade said. Azura turned to them both. The Null feeds on disconnect. It spreads through breakdown of systems, communication, understanding. You feel it already, don't you? The city is growing quieter. Juno nodded reluctantly. Traffic drones are glitching. Broadcasts cut in and out. People say they're hearing static in their sleep. Azura walked to the center of the lab. There is one more major node it will target, the SkyGrid core. If the Null takes that, all remaining satellites will collapse. No data, no defense, no warning. Cade leaned against the console. So we go there first. It's not that easy, Juno said. SkyGrid's locked down. Government tech. Armed patrols. You'd have to break into the upper levels, ride the old elevator line, bypass 3 AI gatekeepers, and Azura interrupted gently. I could do it, but I'll need a carrier frequency strong enough to mask my signature. Juno hesitated, then turned to Cade. You really think this is worth it? Cade met her eyes. She didn't just stop that thing in the desert. She pushed it back. I saw it. We can't fight this with bullets. She's the only one who even understands it. Juno sighed. Then I hope you're right. I'll prep the gear. They made the climb under moonlight. The old elevator shaft ran like a spine through the center of the city, a forgotten artery from the early expansion era. It was dark, half collapsed in places, and rusted to the bone, but it still held a path to the top. As they climbed, Cade looked over at Azura. Her expression was calm, but distant, like her thoughts were galaxies away. You okay? He asked. She nodded, then paused. Where I come from, connection is everything. We don't speak with words. We resonate. Here, people speak, but they don't listen. They touch, but they don't connect. He gave a small smile. That's just humans being humans. Azura looked at him. You're different. You hear more than sound. He didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. They kept climbing. At the top, the SkyGrid core shimmered in the dark, a massive ring of towers, rotating slowly, generating the pulses that kept the orbital satellites in sync. But the hum that usually surrounded it was wrong. Lower. Muted. Azura winced. It's already begun here. The Null had touched the edge of the SkyGrid. Panels were flickering. Lights dimming. A thick, unnatural fog rolled across the floor. Juno's voice came through the comm. I'm patching through a frequency loop. You'll have 5 minutes of cover before the system starts flagging anomalies. Azura stepped into the center of the tower and raised her hands. Cade watched as she began to hum, low and steady. Lights in the tower flared to life. The rotating ring slowed, then stabilized. The fog withdrew like a tide pulling back. Then the tower spoke. Warning, unidentified harmonic pattern detected. Counterfrequency deploying. Azura's eyes widened. It's fighting me. The Null is trying to overwrite the network directly. A high-pitched tone filled the air. Screen shattered. Cade dropped to one knee, gripping his head. Static buzzed in every frequency. Azura stood firm. She let out a long, Steady note, pure and full. It sliced through the noise like a blade. For a moment, everything stopped, and then silence. Real silence. The system rebooted. Lights flickered back to full. The fog vanished. The sky grid stabilized. Kate stood slowly. You did it. Azura swayed, exhausted. No, I delayed it again. But each time it takes more. Juno came over the comm, Skygrid's holding for now. But that thing isn't stopping. You're running out of time. Azura met Cade's eyes. There's only one way to end this. We have to close the rift. And I'm the only one who can. The city was silent. Not asleep, not still silent. Every broadcast channel was down. The networks had gone black. From the streets of New Orleans to the orbital grid above, the world had gone quiet. Azura stood at the top of the old space elevator, eyes closed, hair lifting in the charged air. The tower groaned beneath her feet, ancient steel and resonance coils humming with unstable energy. Cade stepped beside her, shielding his eyes from the storm clouds circling above. The sky shimmered with distortion. A tear had opened in the atmosphere, a dark, gaping wound pulsing with lightless energy. The rift, and from it, the Null poured like a flood. It wasn't a creature or a machine. It was something deeper, a collapse. It swallowed clouds, bent starlight, dissolved matter into silence. Where it passed, nothing remained. No sound, no memory, no meaning. It's here, Azura said quietly. Cade stared up at the rift. Can we really stop it? Azura turned to him. I can. Can we survive stopping it? She hesitated. You can. I can't. Cade stepped closer. You said you were a key. I was made to seal what cannot be closed. Once I sing the final note, the rift will collapse. But so will the pattern that hold me together. She looked up. My frequency will end. Cade didn't speak. His chest felt tight. The wind whipped around them, howling as the Null pushed into the upper atmosphere, drawing closer to the tower. Azura placed a hand on his shoulder. This world is loud and strange, but it's worth saving. Cade met her eyes. So are you. Juno's voice came through the earpiece. Whatever you're going to do it now. The rift's expanding across 6 sectors. People are vanishing. Whole blocks just gone. Cade glanced at Azura. I'm staying. You'll die, Juno snapped. He looked up at the rift. Not if she wins. Juno was silent for a beat. Then, I'll keep the grid stable as long as I can. Good luck, both of you. Azura stepped to the center of the platform. Around her, the tower's harmonic coils began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. She raised her arms, palms open to the sky. Her body lit with soft violet light, symbols pulsing under her skin like music come alive. And then she sang. It wasn't a song in any human sense. There were no words, just pure tone, deep and resonant, spreading out like ripples on water. The platform vibrated. The clouds froze. Even the Null hesitated. The rift screamed. A terrible, howling distortion ripped through the sky, trying to cancel out her voice, to erase her frequency before it could complete. But Azura didn't falter. Her song rose higher, clearer, louder. Cade watched, frozen in awe and fear. He saw light bending around her. The symbols on her body were burning brighter, reaching a blinding peak. The rift began to collapse. Not instantly. Slowly, like a wound healing under impossible strain. The Null recoiled, twisting and writhing, trying to resist. But Azura's tone cut deeper than physics, deeper than code. It was truth, forged in resonance. Then, with a final, impossibly pure note, she released the last frequency. A wave of soundless light expanded in every direction. It struck the rift, and the sky exploded with brilliance. The Null was gone. So was the rift, and Azura collapsed in the center of the tower, her glow fading. Cade rushed to her side. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. The symbols on her skin dimmed to nothing. He took her hand, kneeling beside her. You did it, he whispered. She opened her eyes one last time. Thank you for listening. Then her body dissolved into starlight, fading like mist and sunlight, scattering into the wind. 3 weeks later, the skies over New Orleans were clear. Power had returned. The networks stabilized. People started rebuilding, though many would never understand what had almost erased them. Cade went back to the observatory, now fully restored. He spent his nights scanning the stars, not for danger, but for a sign. Juno visited sometimes, bringing spare parts and silence. They never spoke about what he'd lost, only what they'd saved. One night, Cade heard something through the static. A faint hum, no distortion, no interference, just a single, pure note. He turned his telescope toward the sound. No signal, no source, but in the sky, just above the ridge, a shimmer of light formed, like the air itself remembered her. Then a voice. Not all endings are silence. He smiled. I hear you.